Hello and welcome to another episode of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights. I'm your host Rico, and today I'm joined by Drew, Colin, and Brandon, all here from the American side of the Atlantic. Welcome aboard, guys. Great to see you. Great to see you all once again. I'll do a quick check on how each of you are doing. Kicking it off alphabetically. Brandon, how's it going tonight?
Doing good. It's my Friday. My computer's making noises. It's great. My headphones are working in the last 2 minutes, so I'm happy about that. It's going to be a great night now.
Hey, it looks like things are picking up on the positive end, so we'll certainly take that positivity. Colin, how are you doing, sir?
I'm quite well. It is not my Friday, unfortunately. I wish it was. But yeah, otherwise doing great.
Busy,
Glad to see,
busy
glad to
time
see
for
you.
you these days, right? With work and all, right? Crazy times.
Work is tough. I started college again for the first time in like 10 years, going back to college. So that's been an adjustment. But it's going really well. It just was like, way more work than I had remembered, which is
Oh
probably why
man.
I didn't do so well the first time.
Well, from everyone here at LFCTR and everyone on watching the live stream, I'm sure we all wish you well and Godspeed with going back to school.
Thank you.
Uh,
So close to being done. We're almost there.
Drew, disappeared off the chat there. Drew, how's it going, sir?
Doing all right. Like Colin, it is not my Friday, but starting a new job. So trying to figure out how I can order my breaks and lunches to catch the midweek games if possible. But we'll see.
Oh man, yeah, certainly a struggle. I had the benefit, thankfully, of working from home primarily, so I can kind of get away with second screening stuff. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge these days. Luckily, I guess we only have to look forward to one day, possibly midweek, for Liverpool, and that would be Thursdays, at least for this season. But we'll touch on that. Looking forward at the matchup against Lask on Thursday, as well as the matchup against Fulham on the weekend. But before we get to that, I guess let's kind of take us through the current set of events going on with Liverpool at the moment. As we all saw at the weekend on Saturday, we did draw 1-1 with Man City. Before we get into like the Allison injury, etc. Your quick thoughts on the match. I'll go reverse order from when we started. Drew, your quick thoughts on Saturday's match with Man City.
It was 4:30 for me. So after Man City scored and I got up that early, I was kind of like, oh no, please no. So I'm quite happy with the 1-1 result away from home. I thought there were moments in the game where we looked really good, and still considering how much work we did in the offseason for refreshing and revamping the midfield, the fact that we're in a title race this early on and can fight back. You'd love to see everything clicking more at this point, but at this stage to get a result like that away from home at the Etihad, probably their biggest game of the year. No joke. So I think that's a huge result for us, and happy that when I went back to bed at 6:30 in the morning, it was with a point.
Definitely. Yeah, Matt. The biggest matchup at the Etihad, but still at the end of the match, Pep was complaining about the crowd, wasn't he? Uh, Colin, your thoughts on the match? I know you aren't as early, obviously, as Drew in watching. Were you able to catch it live?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was up. Yeah. The more I think about it, the better the point feels for me. Especially from being down to coming back and getting the point. Then that I think is a big difference and a big positive in terms of the psychology of it. And really, I think being away is super important as well, and that just kind of feeds into hopefully this like very young, very new second iteration of Liverpool's of this Jurgen Klopp Liverpool squad to like really like have that belief. If I was the manager, I was the coach, that's what I would kind of focus on going forward. Is like, do you all believe now Do you all believe now that you're good enough to hang with them? Do you all believe now that you're good enough to push it to the end? And I certainly think we are. So great time.
Yeah, definitely. First time Man City has dropped points at home in 2023, I believe. Your thoughts on the match, Brandon?
Yeah,
What'd you come away with?
happy with the point. It's going to the big big like 6 teams or the big rivals. Getting a point away from home is always the big goal. Like you go into this game thinking, get the point. If we can sneak a win, that'd be great. We scored late. I was like, oh, maybe we can snatch it. Obviously didn't come to be, but I like the little also Darwin having everybody's back and getting right in Pep's face. I enjoy that immensely. Like I've grown to really despise Pep, especially after the Costa situation last year. So I'm really glad that some of the people in the team aren't forgetting that either. So hopefully he bags 4 when they come back to Anfield later in the year. But I didn't get to watch a whole lot of game. I had to be at work at 8 in the morning.
Oh no!
So I had to
on a Saturday. Bless you, Brandon. Sorry.
retail 12 hours back-to-back days. So yeah.
Oh no! Yes. Capitalism does not sleep or take holidays off.
Yeah.
That's for certain, Brandon.
Especially living in Ohio, real quick, just living in Ohio State, Michigan's that same Saturday. So it's like 4, 5, 6 hours of just sitting there doing nothing because nobody is doing anything except watching that game or prepping for that game.
Yeah, definitely. College football, huge thing here in the States, especially with those 2 rival schools. Who won, incidentally, for those who don't follow college football?
Michigan won. It was I can't remember. I know it was like a late pick. It was a close game. It was a good game.
Oh man, but yes, kind of referencing back towards the end of that matchup, with all the microphones available there at the field, I'm quite surprised there hasn't been any audio release just yet of what exactly was said. I know in the post-game match, Pep said it was nothing, but you kind of could tell from at least Klopp's race to kind of intervene and get Darwin away from Pep there that it was getting a little bit spicy. I'll go with you, Colin, first. Your best take on what was possibly said and got Pep a little heated.
Oh, how can I put it without? Yeah, I don't think it was pleasant. Like I don't think it was. I don't think it was very pleasant. And I think honestly, I think Jurgen kind of stepping in the way that he did, probably squashed any sort of like outward or outcry from Pep about it. Pep pretty much said in the post game that it's like it was nothing. Like nothing was said. Like it was fine. And if it wasn't for that, I think that probably would not have been the case. Yeah, I mean, no surprises. I don't think that I have a lot of respect for him, but I don't like him very much. I think he is a genius, but I don't find him a particularly likable person. So any chance that our boys get to really stick it to him, I think is with no blowback, I think it's really great. I really love to see it.
Well, we've grown accustomed to seeing that energy from Darwin, and I think it's one of the bigger reasons why we love him. And obviously, you can tell he's very enthusiastic about being a Liverpool Red. Brandon, your best guess at what Darwin said to Pep that got him spiced up. Was it hair tips, perhaps? I don't know.
It could be hair tips. I don't know. I'm trying to see if I can say anything that won't get the channel banned. It probably had some very language in there. No, I think it really was. It's I think Darwin absolutely, you can tell, loves playing for Liverpool. Like he's absolutely embraced the club as much as a lot of us has embraced him. That I do think it's ate at him, the whole celebration last year in front of Costas. I think that is probably the main crux of it. I don't think he forgets things. I think he kind of has that little Suarez bit in him where he hears all the criticism and he wants to drive him. Obviously the great Suarez celebration in front of Moyes where he goes diving in front of him. That stuff up and he wants to thrive off of it. So I think it's just he's also kind of playing in his head. It's kind of psyching himself up to kind of hit the ground running in the next few games, and also when they come back in the Anfield in a few months.
Drew, your thoughts on what perhaps Darwin whispered to Pep there at the end, because it looked like he started off all happy, and then something got said, and it switched to it switched 180 real quick.
Yeah, I'll grab different headphones in a sec. Those ran out of batteries for me. But to answer the question real quick, I read something similar to what Maddie was saying in the chat, that apparently he kind of dug into Pep about what he was doing to Costas last year. And for me, I really like that, because at first I was kind of like, what's this about? Like, I love Darwin's energy, but you never know what he's gonna do. And I'm like, please God, like, no, like, retroactive, like, ref coming over and like showing a red. I wouldn't be surprised at the Etihad and with Pep involved or anything like that. But once I read that, I was kind of like, I really like that. I really like him saying, like, I'm not forgetting what you did.
Mhm.
And I want him to channel that back into the home. Like, I want him to, to knock Man City out, because he needs to show up against Man City. But I like that fire, and I want him to use it in the right way. And defending Costas, defending a teammate, I'm always going to get behind that.
Definitely. He ran his butt off that match. Didn't score obviously, but contributed in other ways. My best guess was perhaps something in reference to him kind of blatantly having his players fake injuries and suddenly be available for the match. Uh, in my thoughts, it kind of it perhaps played a factor in perhaps Alisson getting injured there at the end as well, because Ederson has primarily been the starter for Brazil, but with Ederson pulling up lame supposedly prior to the international break, therefore Alisson did get those starts, did concede 2 goals to Lucho Diaz against Colombia, and and lost against Argentina as well. So that plus all the travel, a lot of matches. So yeah, Pep played it right, and perhaps maybe not winning the battle, but kind of injuring us for the long term more there. But yeah, I definitely love that fire from Darwin. Good comment there from Jay Muse as well. We do have to watch those tempers. Obviously, we want to avoid any type of headbutt situation, anything that might cause a suspension of any type. They're super quick to hand them over to our LFC players. But and coming out of that match, we did get 2 players pull up lame a bit. Diogo Jota around the 50th minute, getting substituted by Lucho Diaz, pulled up lame, and then towards the end, Alisson in trying to clear the ball a couple of times. Looked like he pulled his hamstring. Not too much word as far as prognosticated time off for these guys, or recovery time, I should say. There has been rumors of perhaps 5 weeks. Alisson might be out. I haven't heard anything concrete for Diogo Jota, but of the players that we could afford, perhaps having an injury spell, is Alisson the top player on that list for you, or where in what pecking order would he be in? I'll go over to you, Brandon, first.
Sorry, I got a buzz. There we go. Yeah, I think Allison would be kind of the toughest one to lose, outside of maybe Mo for a long stretch of time. Losing Mo would be kind of really catastrophic for how much he can do scoring and creating. Like, I do like Kelleher as a backup goalkeeper. He can do the job, but we obviously do have quite a fall off in between him and the best keeper in the world, which is Alisson. So outside of Mo, Alisson would be the toughest one to lose for a long stretch. But at the same time, we lost him the year we won the title, and Adrian came in, and I think some people kind of forgot that he did play really well for that stretch of time he was actually out there playing. Obviously had his issues here or there, but he's
Not
Adrian.
against Atletico Madrid, but yeah, he contributed that year, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, but still, you want to see Alisson back there. I always forget just how big he is and how intimidating, like, of a physical presence he kind of is. Like, you always forget he's like 6'5". He's a wall back there, and some of the saves he's already made this season. We go back to the best keeper in the world award a couple weeks ago, him not even being nominated for it, how much of a joke that continues to be like seem, and every single day it passes, like it's like, really, you don't think this guy's the best keeper in the world? I can understand giving the award to somebody else, but not even nominating the obvious best keeper in the world. But outside of Mo, Alisson would be number 2 for my can't lose, and Van Dijk obviously right there as well.
What about you, Colin? How far up the top does Allison rank as far as the most indispensable player?
Yeah, for me, he's way up there. For me, he's the top. If not for him, last year, if not for him last year, we don't get Europa League, I don't think. So, and it's not necessarily an indictment on Kelleher, although I think maybe his last, like, you know, if you took a survey of his last like 10 appearances for us, they're not necessarily indicative of, I think, his you know, his overall, you know, level, or what his level really could be. But yeah, I mean, way high up there.
Yeah, so basically number 1 for you. He's our most indispensable.
Yeah, I think so. Brandon makes a good point about Mo. It's hard for me to like dispute that point because of the kind of talisman nature that he is. However, I think that there are a lot of people that can kind of contribute in the goals, especially now. And I don't know that there's anybody as important in keeping the ball out, or certainly not has been as good at it over the past, you know, 2 years as he has been.
And obviously, Keelan Kelleher has barely played for Liverpool in these past 2 seasons. This year, as a silver lining to us not being in Champions League, he has had the opportunity to get a little bit more run out there. He actually has started more matches this year already than he did all of last season. Alisson Becker hasn't had a substantial injury or missed any real time since 2020. So, and Alisson is on record as saying he wants to play pretty much every match. So, it's been, you know, going from being a cup-winning goalkeeper, even as a backup, to barely seeing the pitch has gotten to be quite an adjustment for Keelan Kelleher. First to you, Drew, how indispensable is Alisson as far as pecking order? And secondly, your thoughts on Keelan Kelleher and his ability to assume the mantle if Alisson is out for 5 weeks.
Yeah, I agree with you. How Kelleher has kind of just been frozen out since, like, he's had big moments for us. Like, obviously he stepped up. He won us the FA Cup and the League Cup the other year. He's shown that he has quality. And thinking back to like the Leicester game and penalties, obviously he's been a penalty just phenomenon when he's come in. And then I think it was Colin who was saying that, you know, taking the last 10 games, they haven't been his best, but I honestly think that might be to his just situation as backup keeper. Like, I'm sure he's done more than enough to prove that he should be a first choice keeper in many teams, but you're never going to get ahead of Alisson. So I imagine that being a difficult situation to be in mentally, and then to play that odd game during a season for Liverpool. You know, not always match sharp, but I do think that he rises to the big occasion. He's shown that, and I think if he does have to step in for a handful of games, that he'll be on the top of his game. So I'm grateful that we have him as our backup, but Alisson would probably be my number 1. I think just the fact that he was like the final piece in the jigsaw for us winning, you know, the Champions League and the Premier League. Kind of just shows you what he brings. But I'd be tempted to say just for this season, maybe Virgil van Dijk, because I think he's been absolutely immense in defense, and our center backs haven't been like, he's been the one that's just the pillar in defense, with, you know, being alternating between Konate and Matip and then even Gomez at times. So I think his levels of performances might elevate him, because I couldn't imagine just having to chop and change every week between the other center backs and not have any consistency. So that'd be my 1-2 at the moment, and then Mo, of course. I'm happy that we finally have backups in those positions and in midfield now, to where I wouldn't be as worried. Versus like Van Dijk goes out, I'd be very worried, and then Allison, I'm okay with Kelleher. I think he can step up, so that's why I'd say possibly Virgil van Dijk as my number 1 at the moment.
Wow, very interesting shout, and a pretty good one. I might agree with you on that, but it's hard to kind of pick one, because I think we have 3 players who are pretty much indispensable, and those would be Alisson Becker, Virgil van Dijk, and Mohamed Salah. Each pillars at their respective positions, I believe, as far as world rankings, and pretty hard to choose which of those you'd prefer to see out. But of those 3, I'd probably, just because we do have a kind of a more stable backup, I'd probably go with Allison being down for a little bit, considering I do believe in Kingdom Kelleher. I think with a good run of matches, he will pick up level. He wouldn't be the backup if the talent still wasn't there. And considering that they held fast to him during the summer transfer window when there was interest in him, obviously not at the valuation that they put him at, just because of his talent and the concern that Allison might go down with injury. Obviously, we don't want to rely on Adrian for any substantial run of matches. So I'd probably go either Virgil or Mohamed Salah as far as top 2, and then Alisson third. Last season, with the mess that we were in defense, in midfield, where chances were coming very often and very quickly, Alisson, to me, was our MVP of last season. But I think we're on a little bit more stable ground this year. Our defense, obviously, Alisson has the highest save percentage in the Premier League, and we've currently allowed the second fewest goals in the Premier League, and he's obviously a big part of that. But I do feel Kelleher can do a job if Alisson is out for those 5 weeks. But yeah, it's tough times. I think Pep certainly played it right, keeping all his big players kind of at home, or and any of the South American ones did stay home. The European ones kind of came and went, but that's a much shorter stretch. But yep. And kind of let's touch on Diogo Jota. Obviously, we're a lot deeper in the attack, but with Diogo Jota pulling up a little bit lane, I do think it offers a little bit more opportunity for Cody Gakpo, as well as perhaps Ben Doak, now that he's back from his own little injury troubles there, to perhaps audition on the left side, because we know Mohamed Salah isn't coming off on that right side. But thoughts on Diogo Jota possibly being out for a while and our ability to cover for him. Brandon, over to you, sir.
Yeah, I think in that position, that's the one position that feels like properly reinforced. Like I said, Cody, I wanted to see Cody kind of move out left a little bit more, like instead of just being like kind of use that false 9 striker role, kind of getting back on the left wing where he kind of came through at. Then I mean, even Darwin has played out on the left wing before, like in Benfica, he liked to norm out left. Obviously, Lucho is, seems like a man possessed since all the kidnapping stuff's kind of resolved. The way he was with Brazil, like I kind of was shocked he didn't get to come back and start, but obviously with the travel, you never know what kind of effort he can give in. And Jota has that weird thing about him where sometimes he disappears from a game for 92 minutes, then shows up in the 93rd minute to score a goal. And then everything's kind of forgiven. So in this position, I think Lucho is kind of now worked his way out of it, and now he's going to be kind of taking that starting role that Jota's been in. I do want to see Cody, though, out there on the left. That's the one position I'm not super worried about, is left wing, is just because we have the options to really go at it there.
And Colin, over to you. How well equipped are we to kind of cover for him? And second question to that, I actually want to ask you: do you see Diogo Jota as a winger? I feel like he doesn't work with the pairing of him and Darwin on that side. Has left me wanting every time I've seen them out there. But your thoughts?
I really like Jota and Nunez basically taking each other's positions. I've cited it a couple times about how I really think that the both of them work, maybe not exclusively best, but I think it oftentimes can really work in tandem, as one being like one of them grinds you down and the other is the one to kind of once the defender is worn down, they're the one to kind of put it away. The injury history for him is concerning to me. Just more generally, I think we are better equipped to handle that kind of injury than I would say almost any other team in the Premier League. I think Cody Gakpo is fantastic. I think he will be, he can play on the left, and I don't think that that's a problem. Or he can play, he can play the 9, and Nunez can go out, and I think that's fine too. The injury history for him really is what is, most concerning for me, and I'm hoping it's not too serious, and he'll be able to be back within. I think the Premier League gets a break this year. They had announced they get like a small, like maybe 10-day winter break. So hopefully, I think that they hadn't, because there was. I remember I was on a stream where we were talking about how Mo wasn't going to miss any time then for AFCON this year because they had introduced like a 2-week winter break, so he wouldn't miss any of the Premier League games then.
I'd have to double check that. Perhaps someone on the chat can keep us honest. I'm probably looking at you, Muse, or Paul. From my understanding, I do think Mo's going to miss at least perhaps 3 matches for us, but if they go to the final, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree. We are better equipped with Jota kind of going down than we were definitely last season where we lost Lucho as well. And Muse, thank you, Muse. I knew it. January 2nd through the 20th is the break, guys.
Nice.
And I should probably just plop it up there for everyone to see. Drew, I'll go over to you. As far as the minutes are concerned, where do you see Jota's minutes going to as far as covering for him now that he might be out for a little bit?
Probably just Diaz, because he's been playing on that left more often than not, even though I think he isn't always involved in the game. Like in Man City, I didn't think Tsimikas got the ball, the left side at all, got the ball working that much. It was pretty much primarily through the right. But I don't think it's his best position anyway, the left wing for Jota. I think he works best up top. But, Nunez has been in good form, international break too. He was rocking it. So, Nunez just offers more, I think, with his chaos and his energy. And Jota also has probably the unwanted knack of being a tremendous super sub. So I'm definitely
he might be our best finisher, at least best 2-foot finisher as well. Well, actually using all 3, his head and both feet as far as finishing is concerned for Jota. But do you think? And we had Paul make a shout there that Diaz, Lucho, and Salah are our best 3 up top. But Colin kind of thinks Jota and Diaz work on that left side. What are your thoughts on Jota and Nunez? What are your thoughts on Jota and Nunez combining up on that side? At least in my opinion, I feel Jota's a little too sloppy with the ball to kind of combine with Nunez appropriately. I feel like their chemistry really isn't there as opposed to with Diaz. But kind of want to get your take on that.
Yeah, I definitely think Diaz and Nunez have a better link-up play. And I think Salah and Nunez have a really good understanding. I think Nunez is a lot better, like just going onto the ball. So like obviously playing him in behind with the speed and or just like having that one touch. Like he'll put it out to Salah. Like if he gets the ball, he's been getting really a lot better this season at being able to pass it off better. because I don't think he's always the best with getting the ball at his feet and needing to do something in a tight space. I think he has that in him, but I think he's much more effective when he can see what he wants to do first or just have to react to something. So I think he and Salah is like the perfect example of how they work. Like Nunez knows that what Salah wants. Salah knows where to put Nunez in. Versus Jota, I think he can, like, he's really good at head down, driving at defenders, splitting the defense, or maybe playing a ball when there's way more space, but tighter space with him and Nunez doesn't seem to link up that well. But that's why we have a lot of other options in the team, and we can mix and match. And Klopp has that ability to throw Gakpo, Diaz, Nunez, or Jota in there in the mix. So we've got a lot to work with, and I'm not worried about. I'm annoyed, as Colin said, that Jota's got this knack for injuries, but at least we're not in an injury crisis situation like we were last year with Jota and Nunez out and all the pressure on Darwin.
Definitely, yeah. Darwin going from being our striker to being asked to play left wing, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, for certain, Darwin definitely down the middle. But in kind of leading into that, Cody Gakpo is back from his injury spell a few weeks ago and scored during the international break, and looks to be in line to get a little bit more minutes, especially on that left side if we are playing Darwin a lot more centrally. Paul posed a question there in the chat. What in your opinion, guys, what is Gakpo's best position? Winger, false nine, or as a 10? We've seen him start in midfield as well. Kicking off the season, he played in midfield for us. Brandon, what's your thoughts on Gakpo's best position, at least in the Premier League for Liverpool?
I think as of right now, it would be winger, just because that's more of his like comfort zone. Like he's still developing his like striker abilities. I mean, he played wing almost all the time at PSV, if I'm thinking correctly. But I think he really does have all those kind of physical traits and technique to really develop into an elite type of modern day striker. Maybe not quite in the Bobby Firmino role, but I think he has those type of like kind of attributes to himself. He's very skillful on the ball. He strikes really cleanly. He's big. That's another guy that you always forget is he is 6'4", 6'3", 6'4". He's a guy who can get on the end of the balls and like getting on the end of Trent crosses, get on the end of Robbo's crosses when he comes back, or finding Szoboszlai and his great technique. I mean, he's going to be a weapon as he develops more into the Klopp type striker that I think obviously Klopp sees in him, and it's just going to create so many other problems for other teams when they play us. Whenever I can have the battering ram chaos monster that is Darwin, or we could have like a completely different type of player in Gakpo playing up top that it just can create so many different like type of matchups that can really cause chaos, especially early in the games or late in the games whenever we switch like systems.
And definitely, Gakpo had an important dummy run to open up the space for Trent for the tying goal against Man City. So he is contributing in other facets, if not scoring. Colin, your thoughts on what Cody's best position is currently?
I think his best position for us is a false nine, with his ability to drop into midfield, not necessarily starting. Shout out to Paul. We love Paul. Not necessarily starting in midfield and picking the ball up there, but I think his ability to kind of drop in and overload from that position and then draw the center backs with him and create in behind, I think is, if it's not his best position, currently what we should be wanting to work towards and really kind of designing his development towards. He is such an intelligent footballer. He's like Brandon said, he's physically gifted. You can't teach being 6'3". He's got an eye and a knack for goal. But that's not necessarily, just poaching goals is not the primary strength for him. It's being skillful, retaining possession, making smart runs, and opening up space for other people as well. Like, that kind of run that he made for Trent's goal, that's not quantified anywhere. There's no stats that are going to show you the importance of that role or the intelligence for what I would assume is the intentionality of that run. He I don't necessarily think he thinks that he's getting the ball there. He knows that he's opening up space for someone behind him, regardless of who it is, and there's nothing that's going to kind of show that. And I think that those kind of like half spaces and the ability to drop into them is where we find his greatest value.
Definitely, he's definitely very adept at that. Very good at carrying the ball, using his body to shield the ball and protect it from defenders. Drew, I'll pose this question to you. With our revamped midfield and proposed additional incomings, does LFC 2.0 need a false nine at this point, or is LFC 2.0 does it need a Darwin type striker, a tip of the spear, as opposed to inverting, not inverting, but drawing the center backs back?
Oh, it's a good question. Especially the word "need" too, because yeah, my answer is I'm not sure because I don't know. From what I've seen, like we spent a lot of money on Darwin, so it wouldn't make sense not to kind of move in that way of having that type of striker. We'll see, the rumors about Osman from Napoli as well. Wonder if any of those are true, but if that has any sort of hint of profile of potential backups for Darwin or to take the lead if it was him. Kind of shows Klopp's hand, but the fact that he has multiple options is probably, it doesn't seem like we've quite nailed out yet. Like the midfield still as well. Like we're wondering if we're going to get a CDM in the winter transfer window. It just seems like he has a lot of raw, like fresh in the team, like raw, like it's not a settled team. Besides like Salah at right wing every match, you don't know who's going to be in that front line or the midfield necessarily. So I think there's still a long way to what we'll see as the final product. But I'm torn on the fence because if Darwin just absolutely unleashes and becomes like the striker that he has in him, then that's a player you build the team around because like he's absolutely scares defenses. Scares me when he goes through. I have no idea if he's gonna like blast one in from 40 yards or blast one into the stands because he thought he heard the whistle and it wasn't the case. But like nothing surprises me with him, and it's exciting because like if all of it clicks, then that's the player I'd build the team around. Whereas Gakpo, I think, will find his place in there. Like I think everyone else can work around that because they have the ability. But Darwin's like ceiling is just so high that if everything works out, and I hope it does, that could be a brilliant player to watch for the next 10 years.
Definitely. And yeah, obviously I want him to be the number one starter, any big matchup for us. But Muse makes a very good point here. I think position and formation is needed to be an option. And that's something that, and as you were kind of touching there, Drew, we don't know the nailed down starters for quite a while there. The starters were absolutely almost set in stone in the majority of positions, and that kind of led to these guys getting worn out. And towards the tail end of Liverpool 1.0, them running on fumes. I do think now with Klopp having all these different player types and available options, kind of lets him mix and match and be a little bit more tactical when it comes to gaming out the next opponent. So I definitely think perhaps he's not going to see the majority of his time as a false nine, just because we do hope with our investment in Darwin and the talent we see there that he's playing the majority of the minutes. But having that option, I think, is very, very crucial and allows for a different look. And it's certainly something that we're kind of unaccustomed to as Liverpool supporters. Last year, we were naming two goalies on the bench, and Klopp basically had no one to call up off the bench to provide any kind of spark on the offensive side. So very, very good options to have all around, and especially with the youth kind of coming up as well. Trainioni, lighting things up, even though the Liverpool under 21s did get knocked out today. But all right, so we touched on the Allison injury, Diogo's injury, Gakpo kind of stepping up there. Do we want to chat about the last matchup coming up on Thursday, or kind of move past that because we pretty much qualified and it's
We lost our last one. I don't, don't make
that's
don't make it
that's
a
what I'm
trend.
getting at. Are we counting our chickens before they hatch too soon? Because we kind of felt way confident in our last matchup and blew that one. What would be your approach heading into Thursday, Colin? Put out a strong lineup and make sure we come out with a win to kind of guarantee we're resting that last match, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, have to. You don't want to put the pressure, all that pressure on the last match. And this game's at home. There is absolutely no excuse to not have the best possible performance. I think you got to put out the best matchup you can. You can possibly risk, given everybody's kind of workload at the time. It's important. I think it's important obviously to take it as seriously as possible. We, of course, want to avoid coming in second place in the group at all costs. We do not want to have to play PSG or anybody else who get knocked out of their group, whoever that might be, or PSG or Newcastle. Like, frankly, I don't want an away to a game at Newcastle either. Like, I want nothing to do with that, if at all possible. So avoiding those kind of drop downs from the Champions League is super important. Play the best team you've got. Who can go?
All right, best lineup you can go, considering injury and attrition. For Colin, what about you, Brandon? Go strong or kind of turn over the roster a little bit, give the youth a little try out there?
Now you have to go strong here. Well, I think we're 2 points clear of Toulouse, so I mean, it's you win the game, we're still going to have, like, if they get their win, we'll still have to do something in the last game. So we want to make sure we're in the best position going into that final game. I still would want to see a couple people rested, like especially after we played Mo in that Bournemouth game, like how off he seemed going into that Luton game, which was awful. So, I mean, I do want to see maybe Ben Doak getting out there on the right-hand side. Like, putting a strong lineup out there, maybe getting Cody up top, maybe putting Doak on the right-hand side, but still playing the majority of the guys, like getting Grab the start, maybe Jones on the other side, or maybe Jones starts this game as well, and we get Grab for the weekend. This is the best part of Liverpool, is that we do have a very strong squad, and we do have options, and still can put out a very strong squad with still rotating. But I still want to see kind of some main players out there. Lucho probably playing on the left-hand side, try to kind of overwhelm them early, and then we can worry about subs later in the game.
All right, good strategy there. Drew, your thoughts on the match? Who should get arrested and who should get rotated? Yeah.
No, I'm along the same lines as Colin and Brandon. I think that we definitely need a strong lineup and secure it if possible, that first place position. I lean towards Brandon with maybe the 1 or 2 changes. Like, I imagine probably Gomez in at left back for Tsimikas, because I don't know if he can play that much, or what would happen if he potentially got an injury from overplaying, because he had, I know he got pulled out of the Greece squad, but he still played over international break, 1 match. Salah I'd rest too, at least from the start. Give Doak a chance, because we haven't seen him in a little while. And
since the last Europa match, I believe.
Yeah, so probably give him minutes, and at home you'd hope that whoever's on the field would do the business. I think Salah can come off the bench. I think we tend to have those moments where Klopp brings Szoboszlai or Salah off the bench, but I'd be hesitant to rest too many players, but just the ones in vital positions where, like Salah and Tsimikas and maybe Van Dijk, where you don't want them getting injured, and they've been playing a lot of minutes. So, but where are you sitting on that?
For myself, definitely we want to secure the win, especially coming off a loss against Toulouse in France. Uh, and I'm agreeing with Paul. In a way, I would like to see Kelleher obviously get out any rust against Lask as opposed to against Fulham on the weekend, kind of playing himself out of rust. But at the same time, if we do run out Kelleher out there, he hasn't been the sturdiest of backup goalkeepers either. For a guy who doesn't play that often, he does seem to pick up injuries here and there where he's even missing off of the bench. Never mind having to rely on him to play. So I'm kind of leaning with Paul there and perhaps starting Adrian. Obviously, definitely has lot more rust on him due to father time as well as lack of playing time than Kelleher does. But as far as starting squad, I would bench Mo off the bat just to kind of keep him in the backup in case we do need to bring a bazooka off the bench to secure the points. I would hope our team scores and kind of puts the game on at least on the front foot for us, so we're not that overly reliant because as Brandon made a point earlier in that matchup when we did play the Carabao Cup. Soboslai and Salah played the entire 90, and they were dead on the weekend. And we can't drop points in the Premier League. I think the Premier League is attainable as far as a title is concerned. Even if we sweat out a draw or at worst case scenario a loss, we're going to be advancing through this group, and we could just play on out from here. We can't drop points in the Premier League. Is my thoughts on that.
Real
So,
quick, Rico, is
mhm.
Adrian's not in the Europa League squad, is he? I don't think he's in the Europa League squad. Could be Luka or Yaros or somebody like that playing in goal with Kelly. I don't think
Yeah,
Adrian.
he might not have gotten registered since. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I-
could be correct on that. Good catch.
I don't think he was, but I don't know what the rules are about kind of injury registrations.
Mhm.
I know all the leagues have some sort of kind of provisional registration rules. Like can't not allowed to be like like transfers that you can then just register, but based on. But
I don't think you can do that within the same
within the
round.
group.
Yeah.
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 I don't think you could do that. I think for the next round, if someone got hurt, then you can just kind of
Yeah, it
add
shows here.
them in, but not within.
Yeah, it shows Allison, Pitaluga, Yaros, Kelleher, and Mrozek.
I would kind of love to see Marcelo Pitaluga. I've been sort of just limited just to those training videos that they throw out there. There was one circulating a couple of months ago. He made a couple of nice saves from Mo Salah and a couple of other players that they were impressed with. That would be nice, especially another Brazilian in the goalkeeping pipeline. So that'd be nice to have as well. But yeah. So yep, Bear confirming. You're right. Adrian is not in the Europa League squad. Little typo there, but we forgive that. So yeah, so it's either Kelleher, and as Bear made a point before, that you only gain confidence from actually playing. It's a kind of a double-edged sword because we either want Kelleher to get that confidence and risk injury for the Premier League matches, or line up a super young kid who hasn't played any big matches and hasn't started for the LFC senior team, and kind of throw him out there, even though it is at Anfield. So, but likelihood Kelleher will get the start if history with Klopp plays out. All right, let's touch on a couple of other topics here. We're bumping up at 50 minutes. We might go a little bit over an hour. Let's see. Let's play around with it tonight. All right. Looking at Champions League matches popping up tonight with Openda kind of blowing right through midfield and scoring a very nice goal against Manchester City to take RB Leipzig up 2-0. They subsequently relented and lost 3-2. But a name that Liverpool are supposedly very hot on is Lois Openda, who recently joined Leipzig this season. I haven't seen too much of him, to be quite honest with you guys. I know him more as a FIFA player. His speed is absolutely crazy. But your thoughts, any of you guys feel free to chime in on Lois Openda. I do not believe he can play on the wing. I don't think he is a winger. I think he's more of a striker. So I'm not sure entirely how he fits, but a couple of reports came out as far as his name. Thoughts on that? Feel free to chime in. Anyone?
Yeah, I think with Openda, it's kind of the hot thing of like anytime a Leipzig player or a Salzburg player gets hot, it's okay. He's making his move to Liverpool. That's the next move. Or, I mean, it seems. I mean, Holland was on everybody's lips for a while, and it was like, oh, he's probably he can go to Liverpool or Adeyemi the year after that. I think it was the year after that. It's because like obviously I was taking Minamino, Mane, all these players that kind of in that system. I think it's guy has a big game. Obviously, anytime a player starts breaking through, the big clubs all of a sudden are his next stop. Any day now, he's going to a big club. So I don't see much truth in it, especially if he's just an outright striker. Like even with like us wanting Darwin to be up the middle, he still can move out right. He can still move out left. He's not just straight through the middle, which I'm saying that without ever seeing him play. So what do I know?
Yep. Currently, this year in 12 matches, Lois Openda has 9 goals and 3 assists. Certainly paying out for Leipzig's investment into him. Anyone else with thoughts on Lois Openda and that rumor that popped up today?
Why do we continue to let? Why do we continue to let agents like just like use our name in ways that they don't use other clubs? Like anytime that a player's like just starts to get like be heating up, they're like, let's link them to Liverpool and we'll like double the amount that like any club is going to pay for them. And they're like, yes, this is a great idea. And this happens every time. It's like every time someone like pops up, it's like, yes, Liverpool.
Kind of works though.
It does. I mean, it absolutely does. I just mean, like, why do we let this continue to happen? Because you're absolutely right, Drew.
What can you do if Liverpool can't come out and like refute reports?
Well, but so I guess the root question is then like, why do they use Liverpool and they don't use other clubs in the same way that they use Liverpool in terms of like agent manipulation? We've talked about it constantly over the past. I feel like over the past year.
Well, we saw it obviously play out with Caicedo and Lavia, et cetera, et cetera. At least my quick thoughts on that are, if Liverpool are interested in you, that means you do have talent and you've been scouted heavily. They don't really go after anybody at last minute, really. And if Klopp is interested in you, then that probably perks the ears of a lot of different managers and different organizations. So I think it's a combination of the quality of the scouting as well as the quality of the manager that's in charge that would lead agents to kind of say, oh, Liverpool are sniffing around.
I mean, you're not wrong. And I think Paul's point in the comments about that's what's happening with Douglas Luiz is perfect. Like I are we?
It's not the first time with Luiz either. I think this is like the second or third time with him. Last year, his name came up quite a lot.
Yeah, for like 50 or 60, and now it's like add another 20 or 30, and we're like, well, if we didn't do it then, when we were literally dying for someone who has legs. Like, why would we do that now for 20 more? Like that's obvious. Like, clearly, like whoever is like believing those sorts of rumors, like doesn't have any sense of like a business end, because like that doesn't make any business sense for anybody.
It makes no business sense for Aston Villa. The other name from their team that's popping up in a lot of rumors and looking at Arsenal is Ollie Watkins, who can help us score these days. As far as 2023, Aston Villa is right up there as far as most points earned in the Premier League. They're currently sitting in 4th. Unai Emery has them playing well. Backup players, lazy, in my opinion, players like Yuri Tillemans are assisting and contributing. They have young talent up and down the squad in a way. Why would they leave at that point? Why would Douglas Luiz leave to perhaps? To me, he's not even a nailed-on starter. So yeah, I'm not entirely certain, especially for on an Aston Villa perspective. I can understand Crystal Palace or even a Brighton who aren't doing remarkably great to kind of start the year. But yeah, yeah, that's my thoughts. What about you, Drew? What are your thoughts on why Liverpool get utilized so much as far as the Rumour mill is concerned?
I think we've covered it for the most part, but for me, I remember, I think it was Arteta saying that, quoting Liverpool, of like who he wanted Arsenal to emulate as he came into the club, like using them as an example of building a stable project and bringing it to the top. And I think that that's just been something that every club is looking at. I think Brighton, was another one that got mentioned. Like Liverpool's been mentioned by quite a few clubs as a well-run business. And as you're touching on before, like the scouting has been top notch. You can count how many times Liverpool's been wrong on one hand and still have fingers to spare for how many times they've gotten it wrong in like the last 8 years. So just the and then the reach too, the worldwide reach of the fan base, and the attraction of Liverpool as a club. It's just going to get eyeballs on that player from, and it's kind of saying it's just agents using it because they're going to get eyeballs on this player and going to get people interested and, probably drive up the price. And, it's only good for the player at the end of the day, regardless of if it makes sense for any other club.
Good for platforms and forums just as ours. I will see Transfer Room. Obviously, we're going to pick up on any type of rumor mill stuff that comes up, even if it's agent generated. But definitely, you see some names that are just obvious that right off the bat. You'd be like, no way would be a fit with Liverpool. I do think Douglas Luiz is a quality player. Great delivery. Had a beautiful set piece delivery to Pau Torres to score the tying goal for Aston Villa. Absolutely can score, can curve that ball. But we have Trent Alexander-Arnold already to do that. And if not him, we have Dominic Szoboszlai. If not him, we have Cody Gakpo. Guys who deliver the set pieces for their national teams or their former teams who just can't get a sniff now with Trent being on the squad. So, yeah, I'm not entirely certain how that one goes. Another name that Paul brought up. I guess was there actually a genuine interest in Kefram Turam? I know that's one guy I absolutely wanted for us to get. But yeah, that's another name that's constantly turned around. Is that another agent thing, or did we actually have genuine interest in the guy?
What wasn't the whole thing like we actually started negotiating contract and he wanted double what we were usually offering players who first come into the, like, especially his age and experience level. He wanted like double the wages and like he wanted like 40,000 more than Robbo makes. And it's like, okay, never mind. But I mean, that could all be complete BS, which I mean, with the transfer market typically can be, but I mean, it's not out of the realm. But I heard that enough to where I think there was quite a bit
some fire to that smoke there.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't know. I mean, it's all agent games, and obviously one of the hugest perpetrators of it now, Fabrizio Romano. You kind of have to take anything with a grain of salt what he shares these days, and with pretty much any other kind of transfer person might share these days. Until it's done, it's really all just conjecture and perhaps subterfuge done by either teams or the agents themselves. But before we sign off for today, something that popped up that kind of sounds like a strip club, perhaps, but is instead a proposed change that might be that is going to be trialed after grassroots success, and that would be the use of sin bins. Before today, I wasn't entirely certain what a sin bin was. either of you three gentlemen know the exact definition of a sin bin, and please consider any children that might be watching this program.
It's like the penalty box in hockey, right?
Correct. That's correct.
So is there an actual bin? Because in the penalty box, there's an actual little box. You open a door,
Oh,
hop into
I
with your skates. In this case, what do we actually have with the Simba? Do any of you guys know? Is it a little jail that we have for them?
if they're
Alcohol
gonna
booth?
institute one, there better be an actual like little box or little like small area that they have to sit in. Like there better be. One of my other coaching, I coach lacrosse as well, and there's a penalty box for lacrosse. And there's a place where the players have to go and like sit in, like in Euro, like away from the teams. If they're gonna do this, which I don't know that this is a good idea or a bad idea. I hadn't heard that this was something that they used in higher levels literally until today, until we were like reading about this. I don't really have strong opinions either way at the moment about whether or not it is a good idea. But if they are, there better be a little glass box that they make those guys sit in and be ashamed. Like there better be.
I wouldn't be totally against that, especially kind of protect them from any kind of projectiles being hurled from the stands, perhaps.
A practical use as well. I mean, come on.
Kind of like the Pope Mobile, just in case,
Yes.
but within the confines of the stadium there.
Right.
I wouldn't be entirely opposed to some form of elevated contraption that they stepped onto and then got raised, and they just kind of dangled there in midair until their 10 minutes were up. But there's a lot of ways we can go with this. But Brandon, your thoughts on the sin bin, and did you know it as you know it now before today?
I did not. I had a complete different definition that even though it's after hours in the UK, I'm not going to talk about what that definition was. I'll leave it to the imagination. No, the sin bin, it's an interesting idea. It's something I have thought about in the past. I'm like, that'd be kind of an interesting idea for, especially when you watch like Madrid in the Champions League, whenever they just like even 12 players, even though there's 11 on the field, surround the referee every time one of their players goes down, asking for cards, as just a way to kind of combat that and kind of get the stuff that nobody really likes to see out of the game. I think it'd be an interesting. I do like the whole glass box idea. I want to see Bernardo Silva in one of those boxes in tears because he screwed his team over. It'd be great, and it would bring a lot of different tactical things in practice. I don't know. I think the first time it affected Liverpool, I'd probably have a completely different take on it, and I would hate it more than anything in the world. I don't like change. I'm old. I'm cranky. I don't like any of this stuff usually when it changes. So, I mean, it's interesting. I like it more than maybe the new offside law, but I'd be a little open to it. I'd have to see how it goes.
What about you, Drew? Your thoughts on the sin bin? I hear there's one opening in California.
A lot of sin bins in Los Angeles for sure, but I can't get the image of my head ever since we talked about it of like Mighty Ducks 2, one of the Bash brothers, I forget his name, just like taking off his shirt in the sin bin and like waving around. I'm picturing Darwin Nunez in like a Man City game getting like thrown in there and just like going wild in the box, like riling up the crowd, but. So I think it could be like we'll see how it goes at grassroots, but I don't see it being anything but an absolute disaster. Like I can't imagine like having that box like there with the crowd around, or even if it's isolated, like a little timeout, like they're sitting on a log, and then with the refs and VAR nowadays, there'd be a player in there all game. Like, I don't know how you can regulate it. So it just doesn't make sense to me. But it sure would be a lot of fun to see, just not in the Premier League.
So I think when for the sin bin, they receive both a yellow and they're removed from the field for 10 minutes. So no shirt, you can't take your shirt off at that point just because you'll automatically get that second yellow and therefore convert that into a red. So that'd probably be a go against any type of level of thinking there. But the first thought that came to my head earlier this afternoon when they popped up when I saw it was Mohamed Salah getting dragged down in the right corner late in the game, and he throws his hands up because this is the third time he's already been dragged down without a call. And Paul Tierney says, "Yellow, go sit in the sin bin for 10 minutes," while Liverpool are either A, looking to tie, win, and or hold off for very important points. So that's where my train of thought went immediately to. And with the level of refereeing that we've seen, even this Monday with the Wolves yet again suffering at the hands of VAR, uh, I, I I'm just it leaves way too much room for corruption, for just straight up playing to your likes of certain teams, certain player, certain manager, certain nation that might pay you, to go referee games in their nation while you're being contracted to referee games in England. I don't know. It kind of leaves room for that. So I'm not. I wouldn't like it, unfortunately. But I like Brandon. I'm a 40-year-old man at this point, so I'm turning into a curmudgeon, cranky, and reluctant for change. I still call X Twitter, and I will forever call it Twitter because that's how I learned it. Uh, Paul brings up a good question, and before we sign off, could the goalkeeper go in the sin bin? I have not seen anything relating to goalkeepers there, but I will task any of you listeners, follows, etc., to either put it in the chat or ping us on socials after tonight's stream and let us know. That definitely would be interesting. I'd love to see Pickford get sent into the sin bin, and then put it at a height where he can't reach the key to get out. Yeah, and that would be hilarious to me. All right. Any closing thoughts before we sign off for tonight? I'll go in the order of introduction, which was alphabetical. Brandon, your closing thoughts. Anything coming up for you? Anything you want to share, publicize, and or just get off your chest.
Nothing really. If you haven't, you can listen to my podcast called Monster Ate the Pilot on anywhere you get your podcast from. I do a show on Mondays and shows on Thursday. Thursday, I focus on sports. Monday is usually like mental health or just whatever's going on in the world of Brandon. So if you ever want to, just check me out there. It's usually me just yelling at myself. It's wildly entertaining if you like to see somebody go crazy in real time.
Tune in for the Sin Bin episode dropping next week, guys. Colin, any closing thoughts from you in Pittsburgh?
I just about Trent's boots and the switch to Adidas. I have not felt things that deeply about seeing those boots, which are like the perfect combination of like my three favorite Predators of all time. Very 2006, 2004, and 98, all roped into one. I will wait in line for a pair of those boots. Tell me where and when I need to be and how I can purchase them. If anybody knows anything about how to buy them, please message me. I need a pair of those boots. That's all.
And that is at Colin_Eckes. Please be sure to hit him up. On that subject, before we sign off, quick poll. Best brand of boots: Adidas, Nike. I'll vote for Adidas first.
You know what's horrible is I have most recently been since Adidas got rid of the tongue, I have been a Nike person. But all of my adolescence and high school, I was trying to wear the only wear tongue Predators, and then they got rid of them. And I was like, screw Adidas, I'm only wearing Nike. So I am all the way back in. If they are bringing back those tongue Adidases.
All right, so that was just one vote for Adidas, one prospective vote from Colin. He's currently Nike. Drew?
Nike Vapors for me, but I wore Umbros as a
You
kid.
in California with those Vapors. I knew it.
Dude, Umbros as a kid though, you remember those? I loved my Umbro cleats.
And Monster ate the pilot, aka Brandon. Your favorite brand of boots?
I think when I was a kid, I wore Nikes, if I'm thinking correctly. I switched to football in 6th grade because girls like football players, so that's the reason why I stopped playing soccer, and it haunts me every single day.
It's all right. We still call it football. The other one's American football.
So we're on the American show, so I have to sometimes spice it up with the American language a little bit.
I'm just being a pain right now. For me, it's Adidas. Even though I'm wearing Nike right now, there it is. I just I like Adidas brand more, and there's an Adidas outlet right near me, and their sales are always great. So I'll always go Team Adidas. My family's always decked out in Adidas. We dressed up as Run DMC for Halloween in our Adidas tracksuits for Halloween. So Team Adidas all the way. But on that note, it's been definitely a fun stream. Great to be back on with you guys. Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights coming to you live every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and on in UK time at 4 hours. Is it 4 hours? That would put it at. Is it 2 a.m. now? It's 2 a.m. 2 a.m. in the UK for you guys. So if you're up, check us out. If you're not, still check us out. You could have your phone automatically tune into it and get us on the view there. But before you guys sign off, make sure to hit like and subscribe. For myself, Rigo, Drew, Colin, as well as Brandon. Thank you all. Have a great night, and you'll never walk alone.